Welcome. My name is Art Jones. I'm the founder of The Art of Standing Out. And you are listening to The Art of Standing Out, where we interview standout founders of businesses who stand up for what they believe so they stand out from the crowd. And today, I have Carlos Garcia, founder of FYI Technologies in Southern California, with us. And we are going to take about 35 minutes to take a journey to understand his story, how he got from there to here. So without further ado, I want to introduce Carlos. Carlos, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come on your show and talk a little bit more about who I am. You and I crossed paths before in the old Black platforms, if everyone remembers that from back in the day, right? So I'm very humble, and again, thank you so much, man, for taking this opportunity to bring me on your show.
Fantastic.
FYI Technologies, who I am. I will tell you, and I can actually just start, that I was born in Managua, Nicaragua, right? So I'm from Central America. I came here when I was about 8 years old, so I've been here over 40 plus years now, right? Reason for us coming here is back in 1978, the war had broke out. So I lived through the war for about 2.5 years before, being able to come here to the U.S. We had family here and so forth, but when we left, it was actually my grandmother and myself and my sister that left together, leaving my mom and dad behind. I can still remember, our plane being shot at as we were leaving the runway, which is insane. As a kid, it did bring up a lot of just scare feelings. I mean, it was crazy sleeping on the floor because, you don't want to get hit by a bullet, crossing bullets and so forth. I'll make this a little bit short too, that a year later, I got to finally see my parents, and on the day that they left, all of my dad's colleagues were all executed the day after. So by the grace of God, one day later, I wouldn't have had my dad for such a long time, So having said that, I think part of where my journey began is as a kid, coming here, once my parents were here, we had nothing because obviously communism freezes everything, takes over everything. But one of the things that I always remember is that both of my parents worked very hard just to be able to put some food on the table, right? And again, it was something that I remember vividly, that we always had food, we always had shelter, we always had clothing. It didn't have to be brand new clothing, but we always had it. So what that taught me, man, over the years was that going through this process when we first came here, there were so many kind souls that were willing to give us a hand, help us without really them having no reason why they should be helping us, period. And kind of seeing that growing up, I think it's been one of the things that to this day I remember and drives me to give back to folks, really help people, because someone took the time to actually do that for me and my family as well too. So I feel very grateful, and I feel like I'm on this path or journey where I also need to do the same for others. I feel like it's an ongoing journey to really help others, no matter what it is, technology, personally, whatever. Just to be a friend, man. Just to be that voice that's going to make a difference in someone's day.
That's powerful stuff. I knew beginning that we were gonna talk about your journey and how it made you the man that you are today. I know you from off and on here online for the last 3 years. I did not know that the origin story began in Managua, in Nicaragua. I don't know. It puts you in rarefied air when you talk about the notion that as you were escaping the carnage, right? That was the war with your grandmother, that you hear the bullets whizzing by the airplane. They didn't want you to get away alive, right? You knew that you were leaving your parents behind and escaping with your grandmother. There's a technology term that I've embraced that corporations have, actually it's a military term that corporations have begun to embrace, and it's called VUCA. VUCA, the acronym. It stands for volatility, uncertainty, chaos, and ambiguity. ever since I embraced the acronym, I can no longer say ambiguity. It's
I got
I
it.
can only call it the A word because I don't know why, what changed, but maybe the volatility, uncertainty, and chaos, and the A word
Mhm.
no longer can be pronounced because VUCA is like the tornado swirling outside, or the cyclone, or the volcano erupting that you have no control over. You didn't know a moment ago that it was going to happen and be there, right? And your childhood, when war erupted outside the door, when you had to get close to the floor more often than not, because then the bullets would just fly over
Mhm.
and you would not be injured and harmed in any way. That's living in VUCA, living in a war zone.
Obviously, it affected me. It made me who I am, right? But it's not something that I dwell on because I'm fortunate enough to be here talking to you about it. You know, I know that there's still not only, I'm sure it's not just my story. There's millions of stories out there very similar to mine, of folks who are still actually just living through that as well too. You know, I think it's one of the things that I'm very, very, very grateful, without getting into politics, that I'm here in this country. I love this country to pieces. You know, it's to a point where I really, for me, I am an American. I'm an American citizen. This is my land. This is my country. I will die protecting my country. You know, although I was born in Nicaragua and I still love it dearly from what I can remember as a kid, right? Because I haven't been back at all, you know, and it's something that at some point, if things got better down there, I would love to take my son and my family down there to kind of see where I grew up and get for them to learn a little bit more about my background. But as far as I'm concerned, man, this is home. This is my country. This is my place. You know.
Well, Carlos, it sounds to me like the takeaway from those early years of the dealing with VUCA in your life, and landing where you did in California, that with the hard work that your mom and dad did, and your grandmother, to bring love to the family and sustainability, all the things that a family needs, and then the community that sounds like it gathered around to support you, sounds like that became a North Star, saying, you know, I didn't know we needed help. I just knew that it was a very supportive community.
Mm-hmm.
And we all seemed to support and care for each other. You sounded like you were happy away from VUCA in a happy place. But, you know, when I see Carlos Garcia doing all the different kinds of things you do professionally, and I don't think that there's a separation in what I see as your brand. As a brand strategist, I'm always trying to figure people out and what their brand story is.
Sure.
Some people have a professional brand and they have a personal brand. And you look at the two and you're like, well, they're different.
Right.
And yours is not. You are who you are. The authenticity of the brand called Carlos is born out of the experiences that you had, where one of the core stars that guide you comes from that early childhood experience, where you now care about helping other people. You care as much about making meaning in the lives of people that you serve through technology or through community or through family or whatever you do.
Mm-hmm.
And that all began when it was given to you. So you're paying it forward now.
Right.
I think that's a beautiful part of the story, man. And there's people in Detroit with bad water that have VUCA to deal with,
Right.
that need to know that their struggles are similar to yours. They're not bullets whizzing, but I guess Detroit has bullets whizzing over their heads too.
Right.
And that if you help each other and you support each other, you can end up and found your own company and have a successful life in a beautiful community and have a beautiful family. So VUCA doesn't stop us from achieving. It's the things in our life experience that we grab and we pack into our integrity, right? That make us who we are, that become the shoulders that we stand on to accomplish great things. So kudos, brother, for
I appreciate it, man.
For hearing just the beginning of your story about your commitment to making meaning. Is that you're more committed to making meaning than you are to making FYI Technologies make money. Because if you know you make meaning in the lives of the customers that you have and the people in those businesses that you serve, that perhaps you'll make even more money than if you were just focused on the dollar.
Right. You know, and it's funny, man, because it's, we obviously all need to feed our families, right? But there's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. And I'm so anti-wrong way to do it that for me, it's what's important is building that relationship. What's interesting for a long time, and to this day, I still talk that when you hire me, you hire a tech therapist, right? And the reason I say that and I joke about that is, I don't know what it is, man, but every client that I service or help, they just open up, you know? And so I get to learn a lot from who they are. I get to learn and be blessed by building that relationship. But it's just funny that I'm just there. No, I'm not there to fix your system or help you with that. I become that hearing therapist that, you know, I should just carry a little portable couch with me. You know what I mean?
You know, we know more about the human condition, scientific proof today, because of we can put somebody in an MRI and we could take blood sample before they go in and after. We just know so much about how the brain works and how we think and why we think what we do. And one of the central skills of any leader, any modern leader, and leaders throughout history, I'm sure, but we know today that what we call EQ, emotional intelligence, is one of the central things that a leader must have. And when you work in a company and you work with other people, your EQ tells you how to get the most out of those other relationships. When you're a third party working out and you come from outside the company, you have to even have a higher EQ, because as a consultant for technology, you're coming in to work with all of these people and all of the tools that they use to help them become more effective and efficient. And if you don't know how to work with this one that's different than working with that one, and you're not able to lead them to the answers that they seek, you won't be as successful. So you just articulated, you kind of refer to it as empathy, and I see it as leadership. And that's what makes FYI Technologies not just your typical IT guy, because you care more about the bits and bytes. You care about it's less about tech and more about the humans using the tech. Because I can fix the tech. It's ones and zeros. It's a couple of cables. I know what goes where. But the humans that are trying to be more effective by using the tech, I need to understand them and what they're trying to accomplish and where their challenges are, so I can help them turn it into opportunities.
Right.
And that's what leadership is. So, you know, let's talk a little bit about, does this sense of highly tuned EQ, is that just in the DNA? Is that, can you look back at your life and say, I've always been this way. I've just been the guy that I am. Or is it modeling your mom, your dad, your grandmother, or somebody else in your life that makes you that tune that way?
You know, I think part of that, man, it's a combination of different things. And what's interesting to me is, and I'm hoping that you find this interesting too, is about 4 years ago, even before we actually started connecting on Blab and all that, you know, I always get credit where the first time I was on Blab was because Leah threw me kind of over the cliff, and it's like sink or swim, right? So it was like a shock factor to me being live on video. Right? Yeah. But part of my upbringing, my dad was always a very quiet guy, right? One of the things that I always remember and respect for my dad is that he didn't care what people thought or thought of him or any of that. Never paid attention to it, which is a great quality, you know? Yes, it is. I think as I grew up, I understood that a lot more than I did when I was a kid, you know, because part of that growing up meant that I didn't have to have $200 shoes like my buddy had next door, right? Payless was just as good as any other shoe in his eyes. He didn't care about name brands and all that stuff. So it was a very humble experience. Taught us a lot of humility for sure, and appreciate that, you know. I think part of up until I would say maybe about 4 years ago, you would not catch me dead talking to crowds. I'm so introvert, it's not even funny, man. It's almost like ridiculous, right? And my wife was actually the total opposite, extrovert, We would go out to different parties or events and gatherings, and folks would say, "Why is your husband not so serious? Is he mad?" And it's like, "No, I'm not mad. Now I'm mad because you're asking. I'm mad, right?" But I was just very reserved. I like to get to know folks, and once you got to know me, then you got to see that I'm just an all-around goofball, man. I like having fun. I like making people laugh. I thrive off of it. So I remember that as I started building my business, I was kind of forced out of that comfort zone to going to talk to people, right? And the more I did it, like even coming on live, it really broke that comfort level that I had in this little box where it's like, okay, if I don't put myself out there, nothing can really happen to me.
Yeah.
I took a couple of sales jobs where I had to talk on the phone, did cold calling and different things. And a lot of those no's and different things created also this huge respect for salespeople who give you a call, left and right. It's like, I know what that's like. It's like the no, stop calling me, hang up the phone or whatever. Right?
One rejection after another. Yeah.
Exactly. But I think what I also learned is that I had great friends that told me, just be yourself, speak your mind like you normally do when we're one-on-one, and let it run. I was a president of a chapter for an organization for networking, and I took that to heart and took that model, and I just said, you know what? What's the worst that can happen, right? I make people laugh. People think I'm just nuts or whatever, but it's still a good time, So I ended up doing that. I said, all right, gloves off. What you see is what you get, and I have to tell you, man, I have never looked back on that. It's been
That's powerful, man. I think that and you see this, I know I see it all the time. And the notion, I think I mentioned it earlier, is that the professional brand is different than the personal brand. And people curate them both. I'm this, but I'm going to make you think that I'm that and this. But in reality, because I don't like myself, so I'm going to present on Instagram, this is my life. And I'm going to present on LinkedIn, this is my professional brand, when really I'm an introvert. Mm-hmm. But I want you to think that I'm an extrovert. And again, going back to science, the old adage was that salespeople had to have the gift of gab. Mm-hmm. Science tells us that the best salespeople are the ones that listen better.
Yep.
Right? The best consultant is somebody that knows what question to ask. Ask one question, you get them talking. You ask one question, they talk for 15 minutes. You have done a better job than the salesperson that talks for 15 minutes and only lets the customer answer one question. So in recent history, the last 15 years maybe, introvert stock has risen. And it's being thoughtful and insightful. So and being authentic. Right? And when I say authentic, I don't mean like I've got cardboard in my shoe to keep the water from coming through the hole in the bottom of my shoe, right? If I'm that authentic and I show you the bottom of my shoe because I want you to see the cardboard, that may be too much. I don't want to know that. But but I do want to know that the integrity that it makes you, the integrity that you have, the North Star that you follow, that you won't waver ever from being honest with me, that you will always treat people well, that you tip people at the restaurant when we go out, right? You don't bash the service staff, that you're a good person. And that's integrity. And I think when you build your brand around, and kind of like this conversation that we're having, you're being very open and candid about, from Managua to California as a child, didn't have very much, had love, but I had a helping community. Those are the things that sound like they became the North Stars that you can say, when I didn't know that I didn't have a lot, but I had a lot of love, and I got it, and I want to continue giving it back because I know what it feels like to deliver love, right? That's those are the things those are the beliefs that you stand up for. Right. And that's the intention for this interview, is to let the listening and viewing audience know that we all have things that make us who we are. Honor the things and the people that taught us those lessons and remember them often, because that North Star is what guides us. And the people that we meet in our business lives that want to see us consistently present in the same way, because they don't want to question whether Art's going to show up and be a jerk today, or is he going to be honest today. They want to check it once, see it again, and then believe it going forward. And if we strongly believe that people whose shoulders we stand upon, that taught us the lessons that this is who we should be, this is a good person, this is what makes a good life,
Right.
then we'll be more successful in life, because our emotional intelligence, how we behave, will be seen by the people that we're in service to, and they'll say, she's a good guy, or he's a good guy. I've seen it, and they don't waver. And I think that's the opportunity for all of us to see that in spite of the VUCA, the volatility, uncertainty, chaos, and MU, the A word, that challenge us to be different. Don't change. Take the positive things that we've learned, stick with it, and let it serve you so you can serve others in the same way that you were served. Name your favorite movie.
That's a good question, man. One that I'm hooked on to this day is actually The Matrix, and it made me more because of the technical part of it, but it's fascinating to me. I mean, obviously there's a bunch more that I could tell you. I mean, on the funny side of it, I still love The Burbs, right, with Tom Hanks, one of the cheesiest movies ever made, but still makes me laugh, right?
Right.
So
right.
there, you know, I could go on.
I'm a fan of The Matrix too, being a technology guy. The
Right.
Matrix and iRobot and stuff like that.
Right.
I love those kind of movies. Lesson learned in 2017 in your business that fuels you in 2018.
You know, to keep surrounding myself with positive folks. Lesson learned is that I don't have time to waste on negativity. Life's too short. And I think as I launched 2018, I had to do a lot of pruning, if you will. You know, relationships that are just negative. I don't really need that. You know, like I said, life's too short. And it seems that the more positive I have that mindset, the more positive folks surround me. And I take a lot of energy from it.
I can tell from the little research that I did on the brand Carlos Garcia that you're an ambassador in several chambers and other groups. So as an ambassador in a chamber, you're the intake or the onboarding. You're kind of, you say, hi, how are you? Let me tell you what's going on. And I imagine in that saying what's going on, you're giving tips on how to maximize being part of a chamber. And so do you have tips that you can share quickly that people that want to network in a chamber or any other networking environment, what are some words of wisdom that you can give them on how to present and maximize themselves to bring value to themselves and others in the networking space?
I think key to that, man, is that, you know, like everything else, not all chambers, not all networking groups are created equal. I think that you really, if you're going to participate in a chamber or you want to check them out, you know, you check them out for free. A lot of them do have events that you can talk to folks there for free. Make sure that you do your due diligence 2 or 3 times. There's a lot of chambers, there's a lot of networking groups that all they want is just membership. Well, when you look at the bigger picture, right, and you're looking at, oh, our group is making, you know, $400,000. We made $400,000 as a group last year. Well, that $400,000, what they don't really tell you until you're in is that was between the mortgage guy and the real estate guy that created that huge amount. But if you talk to everybody else in that group, it's very minimal, almost down to zero that everybody else is contributing. So I think those have been very expensive and hard lessons learned for me.
Yeah.
As for example, I am going to talk about a little bit about the Pomona Chamber really quick. I'm an ambassador there at the Pomona Chamber. I was just awarded Chamber Member of the Year just about a week ago, which is
congratulations.
Thanks, man. An unexpected honor, you know. But I'm going to tell you, one of the things, the key things when I first became involved with the Pomona Chamber was it was a welcoming place, right? It was a place where everybody treated you with a smile. It was a place where there was not a hard sales pitch. You know, here, sign on the dotted line. You know, I went there a few times just to kind of really see, okay, is this all show and tell, or is it really, you know, this great group of people, you know?
Yeah.
So after the second time and actually seeing the same experience, it was just, where do I sign up? And it's been, and I think over the years, and from what I've experienced also, I've become really good at judge as a good to judge characters, basically. I know if you're really just there for me to be another number for your organization, or if I'm really joining to be part of a greater cause, a greater good. You know, we're there to help one another. And I think those are the key things. If I can give folks some tips, is talk to folks. You'll get a feel for, if I'm talking to Art and all Art is doing for the first 15 minutes is talking about who Art is and what Art can do for me, is that really a two-way relationship that I want to build? Probably not, you know, but if, like you said earlier too, when we talked about listening is key. And if folks are not willing to listen, even in those first 2 minutes of an introduction, then you need to take a look at that or run the other way, you know?
Yeah.
And again, these are just things that I've learned over the last year or so that have been very expensive lessons learned, but very well thought, you know?
Fantastic. What's the vision for FYI Technologies for the next year or the next few years?
You know, it's funny, man, because I never really thought about the relationship of Carlos Garcia with FYI Technologies, right? I'm out there just doing my thing and not really putting both of those together, never really even considering myself a brand. But I think it's more, the goal is going to be definitely to continue building more relationships, building a bigger tribe, and just having this just great resource of people that we can turn to one another and help one another out without a hidden agenda or second intention, you know?
Yeah. There's a great quote. I don't know who said it first, but I'll say it now because I know that you and I both believe this. Your net worth is your net worth, right?
Right.
And the tagline for that really is, it's people helping people, right? It's people that care about. They're not trying to sell you a life insurance policy or a mortgage. They're trying to find out who your ideal prospect is. So when they encounter that person, they could say, hey, you know, you should talk to Carlos because he's the best at this that I know. You said you needed it. He's your guy. And they know that if they do good, that potentially you'll return the favor. And if they're good at what they do, you'll refer people to them as well. So it's all about people. It's, you know, there's a lot of great technology. As both of us having technology experience, we know technology is amazing. But the one thing that's been constant for 40,000 years since we've been tracking human evolution is the humanness has not changed in 40,000 years. We're the same, right? We like to engage. We like to look people in the eye. We like to have conversations. We like to trust. Because if you don't have trust in the tribe, you might get the tribe killed, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So trust is so important. And we talk about know, like, and trust. I want to know you, I want to like you, and I want to trust you. And I wholeheartedly believe that. But I think in our modern times, trust is pivoted a little bit because we live in a world where consumers have computers in their pocket that are bigger than the computers, more powerful than the computers I used to sell, right? Now you hold this in your pocket and you can say, hey, Google, I need a realtor in zip code, right? Or I want to buy an Alfa Romeo and I have $40,000 to spend, find one, and the computer will go and give you a hit list. So we don't really need people to sell to us anymore. But we do need people that after we've done our due diligence by asking our computers what we want a leader to come in and say, great, I see you've done the research. Now I can collaborate with you to tell you what I know about this industry that you're researching that maybe you didn't find, because I've done the work. And that is where trust comes from. Because I don't want to trust you just because you like the picture of my family on my credenza.
Right. Right.
Right. I don't want to trust you because you commented on my tie and you say, that's a nice tie, Art. Oh, the guy.
That's a nice shirt, Art. Yeah, absolutely.
Nice
right.
Shirt. Right. They must like me. Trust comes from authority. And when you're an authority in your field, right, and you've done the work, and I can see that you're not going to help me lose my job by hiring you.
Right.
And I think, so I'm saying all that to say that KLT, know, like, and trust is important, but for everybody listening and watching, if you believe what I believe, that trust is where the rubber meets the road. And trust requires for each of us to do the work, to know everything that Google knows and then some. So after the potential customers of ours have done their due diligence by asking people on social networks and asking Google and Siri and Alexa to provide information, that then they can find us and say, I trust this person because they know more than all the research that I've done, and they'll be good to help me collaborate with to create the best outcome for the money I'm about to spend. And everybody listening, when you want technology and you're anywhere near Southern California, Carlos Garcia at FYI Technologies is not your typical IT guy.
I really appreciate that, Art. Again, it's been, I'm very grateful that you gave me an opportunity to share a little bit about my story. I definitely look for the next time we get to chat a little bit more as well too,
Absolutely.
Again, man, I am beyond grateful, for you taking just time out of your busy schedule to just guide me in that storyline, and thanks for showing me where the alligators were. Make sure I'm not going that direction.
Absolutely, and I know, Carlos, you're live on Facebook often, right? So you can find Carlos there at Carlos Garcia. If you put Carlos Garcia, Upland, they'll find you and probably find your live stream.
Yeah, they should find my live stream. They can also find me on. I have a business page for FYI Technologies, or they can directly go to my website at www.fyitechnologies.net, and they can click on the social icons there as well too, and connect with me on there as well.
Well, Carlos, thank you for being on the show, and everybody listening and watching, thank you for listening to The Art of Standing Out, where we talk to standout personalities who stand up for what they believe so they can accomplish more for the people that they serve. Tune in again. Find us on iTunes and find us on my channel, artjones.tv, and YouTube by the same name. And until next time, peace.
Know that once you get to know me, once you get to know who FYI is, it's not just a company, it's not just a name, it's you're actually creating a friendship for life.